and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. First, to the headlines. The first group of the Algerian athletes taking part in the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games arrives to the host city of Oran. The Algerian delegation departed for Oran province from the Algiers airport train station in order to take part in the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman was on the spot to greet the athletes and encourage them to honor our country. And a graduation ceremony for several specialties was organized at the Shahid Yahya Faris Military School in Sidi Bel Abbas province. In Morocco, thousands of Moroccans flocked to the Casablanca street to protest against the high cost of living, a situation worsened by the daily human rights violations carried out by the Makhzen regime and a water shortage threatening the country. Good evening, those were today's headlines. First, in our news, the Algerian delegation departed for Oran province from the Algiers airport train station in order to take part in the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman was on the spot to greet the athletes and encourage them to honor our country in this mega sporting event. Let's have a listen.
We are very happy to be among our children and heroes, which is why I call on to honor our country, which mobilized all its means for a good preparation. 47 years after having hosted the 1975 Mediterranean Games, we hope to revive the same joyful atmosphere and glories experienced by Algeria. During this edition, we wish they would be the worthy successors of the former champions. We've attended on Tuesday the installation of the Higher Council of Youth by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, who affirmed the need to pass the torch to our youth so as to be the locomotive of this nation, adding that it is time for our young people to mobilize their efforts to the service of their homeland.
The first group of the Algerian athletes taking part in the 19th edition of the Mediterranean Games arrived on Wednesday to the host city of Oran. On the spot, they were received by the advisor of the President of the Republic, Abdelhafid Allahum, the Mediterranean Games Commissioner, Mohammed Aziz Derwaz, the Governor of Oran Province, Saeed Sayoud, the President of the Olympic Committee, Abdurrahman Hamad, and other figures. Only 2 days left before the official kickoff of the biggest sporting event of the Mediterranean basin. The first Algerian team arrived on Wednesday to Oran province, where they received a warm welcome by the inhabitants of the region. More details with Melissa Kabash.
Oran's station was outstanding with the colors of our national flag, a way to show its readiness to receive the 200 athletes representing Algeria, with the Mongol in mind, becoming the successors of the former Mediterranean Games champions.
They've put at our disposal all the necessary means. Therefore, we hope to meet our country's expectation.
Everything was organized, especially in the presence of the Prime Minister, who expressed his support for us to be ready for the upcoming sports events, hoping to honor our country. We thank God the entire team is satisfied. We are basically a family. A joyful and positive atmosphere prevailed among athletes present on the train, especially by the end of the ride, leading them to Al Bahia, where they were warmly welcomed by citizens, with an aim to cheer them up and lift their spirits. We've been welcomed like champions. We are very happy. It truly helped lift our spirits. We hope to obtain golden medals during the upcoming competitions to honor our country. We are very honored that our country hosted this event. Our Algerian representatives are ready more than ever to be part of the biggest sports event at the level of the Mediterranean basin.
Still in Oran province, where a special welcome was dedicated to the foreign delegations coming from the different Mediterranean countries. On the spot, Algeria's guests expressed to the media their happiness to be in this beautiful city of Oran, as well as their readiness for competition in this mega sporting event. It is also worth recalling that all human and material means have been mobilized to make a success out of this Mediterranean appointment. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman chaired over a council of the government. During its weekly meeting, the government examined the following points. First, in the field of civil service, a draft law was presented supplementing the ordinance on the general status of civil services, the content of which concerns the institution for the benefit of the civil employee, which includes the general law for public service, in order to establish his or her rights to benefit from an unpaid holiday, to create a startup. Concerning the field of work, employment and social security, the government studied a preliminary draft bill defining the principles related to the protection and exercise of the trade union rights in line with the Constitution and the President of the Republic's instructions. Finally, and according with the established procedures, this draft text will be studied during an upcoming meeting. In a different context, the first national seminar on the Constitutional Court in the Constitutional Amendment of 2020 and its role in the rule of law ended on Wednesday. On the second day, the speakers addressed the mechanism of appeal to unconstitutionality and its role in the protection of the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution through the study and analysis of the path used by the constitutional judge in the decision-making process. Investment in Algeria, reality and prospects. This was the theme of a parliamentary day organized on Wednesday by the National Democratic Rally Party at the National People's Assembly's premises. On the occasion, the President of the Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, reaffirmed that the investment file, to which the President of the Republic attaches great importance, will be the locomotive for our country's takeoff via the improvement of the business climate and encouraging foreign investment. In another development, a graduation ceremony for several specialties was organized at the Shahid Yahya Fares Military School in Sidi Bel Abbas province. A ceremony supervised by Major General Mohammed Al-Bashir Swede, acting Central Manager of the Military Health Services at the Ministry of National Defense. Story by Ines Killu.
Major General Mohammed Al-Bashir Swede, the acting Central Manager of Military Health Services of the Ministry of National Defense, supervised the graduation ceremony of various specialties and levels of training of the Military Health Service of Shahid Yahya Fares in Sidi Bel Abbas province in the 2nd Military Region. The school's commander delivered a speech on this occasion.
Dear graduates, today we'll take a really important oath in which you pledge allegiance to the homeland and loyalty to its people. After the great efforts and trainings in which the school, its staff and teachers were keen to honor you and teach you noble values and knowledge, your morals, actions, sincerity and dedication, and performing your duties with all responsibility.
وأعمالكم وإخلاصكم وتفانيكم في أداء مهامكم بكل مسؤولية. أقسم بالله العظيم.
The ceremony was marked by the inspection of the graduation classes and the granting of ranks and degrees of the first laureates. The national emblem was passed from the graduating class to the upcoming one.
نطلب من سيادتكم الموافقة على تسمية دفعتنا باسم المجاهد المرحوم بن مبارك محمد زيري. موافق.
Then the student carried out a small arms exercise. A military parade was performed by the students, showing the high level of training of the school. On the sidelines of the graduation ceremony, Major General Mohammed al-Bashir Swede inspected presentations in the field. At the end of the ceremony, the family of al-Mujahid or war veteran bin Barak Mohammed Ziri was honored.
Another context and let us have a listen to some of the serious revelations made by the terrorist Azouz bin Halima, one of the participants in the object plans targeting Algeria's security, stability and unity.
بين لي فيديو هذوك اللي قال لي ديرهم قال لي دير باللي فيديو كون زعما اونكا نخرج ولا شغل نحكي لكم على زيطوط ولا كاش ما نجبد الخبايا تاع زيطوط ولا عرفوا بلي عذبوني ولا ضربوني ولا قالوا لي قول ولا هذا الفيديو هو اللي قاعد يركز عليه اسماعيل زيطوط بزاف كي لحقوه فرح قال لي ايوا هذا هو اللي كنت نحوس عليه قال لي هذه الفيديوهات انا نخبيهم عندي قال لي اونكا كاش ما يصرا ولا يهبطوك قال لي نخرج انا هذه الفيديوهات على اساس كيما نقولوا ضربوك وعذبوك وقالوا له قول وهما على بالهم بلي انا نعرف عليهم صوالح بزاف وعلى بالي قاضب عليهم دي بروف تاع خيانه
محاولة ترحيل الإرهابي محمد بن حليمة إلى إنجلترا بوثائق مزورة تؤكد مرة أخرى الارتباطات الخفية لمنظمة رشاد الإرهابية بشبكات التصوير والجريمة المنظمة ولجوئها إلى كل الوسائل والطرق غير المشروعة لتحقيق أهدافها الدنيئة في حين يبقى مصير وسلامة الأفراد الذين تستغلهم آخر اهتماماتها.
تواصلت مع هذا رشيد حاج قراري اللي عطاني النيميرو تاعو العربي زيطوط تواصلت معاه قلت له كيفاش الباسبور وكلش قال لي انا نخدم لك باسبور قلت له وين قال لي من الترك قلت له اوكي ماشي مشكل قلت له ديماري قلت له واش عايز تقام باسبور وكلش قال لي يسقام 2000 اورو.
In other news, 11 terrorist supporters and 9 drug traffickers were arrested following their attempt to smuggle huge quantities of drugs across the borders with Morocco. These smuggling operations were successfully thwarted by units of our National People's Army, proving once again their vigilance and professionalism. More details with Sabrin Tefirginit.
Organized crime units and detachments of the National People's Army carried during the period from June 15 to 21st, 2022 several operations leading up to results that reflect high professionalism, alertness of our armed forces all across the national territory. According to an operational report published by the Ministry of National Defense, 11 terrorist supporters were arrested by detachments of the People's National Army, and in order to counter the scourge of drug trafficking in our country, combined detachments of National People's Army have arrested in coordination with the various security services at the level of the 2nd and 3rd military regions 9 drug traffickers and thwarted attempts to smuggle more than 13 quintals and 68 kilograms of cannabis across the borders with Morocco, while 19 other drug traffickers were arrested in possession of 9 kilograms of the same substance and 49,838 psychotropic tablets during various operations carried out across the other military regions. On the other hand, detachments of National People's Army intercepted in Tamarasset, Burj Baji Mukhtar, Ain Gazzam and Janet provinces 83 individuals and seized 21 vehicles, 104 generators, 47 jackhammers, 5 metal detectors, detonation tools and other equipment used in illicit gold mining operations. 9 other individuals were arrested and 10 hunting rifles, 3,000 packets of tobacco, 31 tons of foodstuffs destinated for smuggling were seized in Wergla, Al-Wad, Ain Gzam, Batna, Khanshla provinces. Similarly, the border guards thwarted in coordination with the National Gendarmerie attempts to smuggle huge quantities of fuel amounting to 32,740 liras in Borj Baji Mukhtar, Al-Wad, Tibissa, Tarif, Souq Ahras provinces. In another context, the Coast Guard's failed attempts to illegal immigration from the national coast and have proceeded to rescue 48 individuals on board artisanal boats, while 280 illegal immigrants from different nationalities have been arrested through the national territory.
Abroad, at least 1,000 people lost their lives due to a powerful 5.9 magnitude earthquake that hit southern eastern Afghanistan on Tuesday night. The search and operations are still ongoing to find possible survivors, while the UN and its humanitarian partners have deployed their efforts to help the affected population as quickly as possible. In other news, the Sahrawi Liberation Army continues its attacks against the Moroccan occupier, which suffered considerable material and human casualties along the Wall of Shame in the Farisiya, Shidmiya and El Mahbas sectors. And Morocco's situation keeps deteriorating. The Al Maghrib Bank registered an inflation rate of 5.3% for the current year, which worsened the already poor living conditions of the Moroccans. More details with Melissa Kebash.
The Makhzen is encountering the worst socio-economic situation ever witnessed in its history. According to the Al Maghrib Bank, the inflation rate should reach 5.3% during this current year, compared to 1.4% registered in 2021. An inflation that severely impacted the purchasing power of Moroccans, already suffering from the high cost of fuel and basic necessities. In this country marked by a number of inequalities, the political and social classes, alongside trade unions, have had enough and can't take it anymore. Thousands of them took to the streets, denouncing their government's practices, held responsible for their living conditions. The Secretary General of the Progress Party called on the government to stop using the changes occurring at the international level as an excuse to cover its incompetency. In addition to these social tensions, Morocco is encountered with the restriction of freedoms of political parties by the regime, which prohibits them from exercising their normal activities, alongside the violation of human rights in different sectors, such as education and media. Faced with a situation that keeps worsening, a national strike is planned for the 29th and the 30th of June in hope to be heard.
Still in Morocco, where the social and economic crisis threatens to reach its breaking point, the Moroccan population have been enduring a repressive regime, a situation worsened by the country's water shortage, especially in the remote areas where drinking water has become rare. More insights with Ines Killo.
A country has been hit by an unprecedented shortage of drinking water, a situation that is weighing on the supply of drinking water to households, particularly in rural areas, a situation that raises fears of the worst in a country where the social and economic situation continue to deteriorate.
راه مازال ما متيقش واش تيشربوا من هذا الماء هذا راه مازال ما متيقش لا ما متيقش لا والله واش كنشربوا لا حول ولا قوة
Several demonstrations that follow one another have been organized to denounce this horrible situation. Empty water cans in hand, the inhabitants of the region affected by this shortage have demonstrated repeatedly to demand their right to access to drinking water under the slogan Thirst Revolution. Unbearable living conditions for the inhabitants of these small regions. Not only poverty which affects this society, but also water shortage that had the Moroccan for months, as they spend hours in front of wells waiting to finally get water that is unfit for consumption. Faced with a chaotic situation, the Makhzen remains resigned and does not react to the situation and ensures the availability of this vital commodity.
Always in Morocco, where the demonstrations are still ongoing, denouncing the high cost of living. Thousands of people took to the streets in Casablanca, and other demonstrations are planned in the upcoming days. For more details, with Sabrina Vergenit.
An economic crisis that reflects the social malaise of Moroccan people, the scandalous price increase of essential products, as well as the energy that has been going on for several months in Morocco is alarming, leading people to demonstrate. Taking an example of Casablanca, where Moroccans took to the streets in order to denounce the exorbitant fuel prices.
انطلقت اليوم من مدينة دار البيضاء في عدد من المدن وما زال مستمرة حتى تجاوب الحكومة مع المطالب وتكون جادة في التعامل ديالها مع كل ملفات وكل قضايا.
Criticizing the Makhzen regime, the Professional Association of Wholesale Depository of Petroleum Gas announces a national strike the 29th and the 30th of June, facing an indifferent regime that opted for silence. This previous Association of Petroleum Gas decided to seize all distribution of butane gas bottles the 29th and 30th of June. The same Professional Association of Wholesale Depository of Petroleum Gas affirms that this national strike could extend, and it is motivated by the massive increase of energetic products, gasoline in particular, prices of spare parts and tires. This association denounced the charges on distributors of butane gas bottles, while the profit margin is regulated and remains the same due to the increase of butane gas in Morocco.
اللي مضرور على الاسعار ديال الغازوال باش صوتنا يوصل. حنا بغينا تسقيف ديال الاسعار ديال الغازوال.
والمواد الغذائيه حتى هي راه في ارتفاع جد حاد.
هذا العيد الاضحى يعني المقبل
يعني الناس العيد الاضحى الناس راه مضروره ما عندهاش باش تشريو وبثمن خيالي. يعني احنا مضرورين.
كل شيء مواد
كل الغازوال يعني احنا صافي هذا
وصلنا ما قدرناش نزيدوا على المواطنين حيت علاش حتى هو مضرور بحالنا. الله يحسن العوان. حنا راه قبلوا دايرين هذه الوقفه وتنتمنوا المسيره غتكون مستمره وغتكون شي حاجه كبر من هكا ان شاء الله. الا ما دارش معنا اخنوش شي حل راه غتكون وقفه كبر من هكا وغتكون بزيها العليا الرباط ان شاء الله. هذا ميساج تنوصلوا لك ان شاء الله راه غتكون وقفه في الرباط ان شاء الله برلمان.
تيبان بزاف علينا درنا داكشي بزاف ماشي على شي حاجه قليله اكثر من القياس.
درت ارتفاع دخلت ارتفاع خيالي وصعيب على المواطن المغربي. خويا حنا المواطن المغربي عارفه الظروف ديالو شحال خدام ماشي الثمن.
كيبان لي حاجه وحده وهي كلشي حط السوارت كلشي حط الماطر كلشي حط الطوموبيلات كلشي حط صافي كلشي نتحطوا حتى واحد ما يمشي للبومبا. هذا هو الحل.
At the same time, the repression policy and the violation of human rights and fundamental freedom by the Makhzen is pointed out by several associations. In its last report, the Moroccan Association of Human Rights overburdens Al Makhzen, highlighting violations that touch political and civil rights, mentioning prisons saturated by political and opinion detainees. Cases studied by this association, in particular those prosecuted and sentenced during Hirak of Reef, who were not included by the amnesty judgment, as well as those arrested due to tweets, publications, or videos on social media in September 2021. This report reveals that in 2021, 120 cases of arbitrary detentions, 10 convocations, arrestation, and legal proceeding were registered, as well as a wave of judicial pressure on journalists. The popular discontent increases, aggravated by the silence of Al-Makhzen regime, which keeps provoking the Moroccan people by reinforcing the normalization agreements with the Zionist entity. The demonstrations are multiplying while the Zionist Interior Minister arrived Monday in Morocco for a series of meetings with Moroccan leaders.
And we wrap up our today's news with local tourism. A new leisure activity using a double-decker bus is introduced to the people wanting to tour the capital Algiers. With an affordable price of 50 dinars per ticket, the visitors get to discover several historical landmarks such as the Martyrs Sanctuary and the Algiers Post Office. This ride, which starts from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m., is an excellent opportunity for tourists to enjoy the capital's beautiful architecture, especially with the current suitable climate. A great initiative, highly welcomed and appreciated by the population who wanted to see this activity promoted in other cities across the national territory. And with this, our today's news edition comes to a close. Thank you for tuning in.